Well, hello everyone. Welcome to Frame.io Live. And first off, Happy New Year. I feel like it's still a good enough time to say Happy New Year. I usually wait until February to we're good with the Happy New Year's. But for right now, Happy New Year, everyone. Welcome to the show. We have so much to go over with you today. But my name is Sean, and I'm a content producer focused on instructional media here at Frame.io. And today we are talking with some folks at VMware by Broadcom. But in true Frame.io Live fashion, I love to kind of banter a little bit because I like to let a few folks kind of trickle into the session. Their numbers are slowly increasing, so that means people are kind of getting in and checking in and seeing what it's all about. So this is a great opportunity, though, for folks that are in the group to go ahead and start leaving some comments. Let us know where you're chiming in from. I love to kind of get some shout outs. We're broadcasting live from Los Angeles, right in the heart of Hollywood. And it's kind of a windy day, but it's sunny out, so I'm happy about that. But hopefully it's sunny and beautiful wherever you're at, or it's in a place that you love being at. So tell us where you're coming in from. I always love to hear where everyone's listening to our streams. But like I said, we've got a lot of fun stuff to go over today. We've got a lot to cover today, but I'm super stoked to have you all join us today. So yeah, we've got Denver, Colorado. It is chilly here. I'm sure it's a lot colder out there than it is here. And I'm sure that if I told you the temperature out here, which I think it's relatively, in the 30s, 40s, I think in the 40s. Yeah, you're probably going, I could wear shorts in that weather. But Denver, Colorado, welcome. We've got another California, Sausalito, very cold in the UK. I'm sure it is. And welcome all the way across the pond there. Got some folks from Sherman Oaks, another California. We've got another UK. Oh, y'all are keeping it late night over there. I love it. Got a little Seattle area. That's beautiful. Chilly but sunny. We got Santa Cruz. We've got another LA. All right, let's keep them coming. And also too, like if there's stuff, Frame.io Live, we do a lot of these events, but where we talk to panelists and different folks. But if there's any suggestions you all have of things that you want to learn about, like, hey, I don't know a lot about Frame.io, I want to know more about this, or I want to understand more about the Adobe ecosystem. We want to be a resource to you. So if you want some notes, or even throughout the session, you're like, what, I want to learn more about that. Throw that on and say, hey, Sean, I need to know more about this. I want some more sessions. But we got some New York, we got North Carolina, we got NYC. How's it going? 20 and snowy in Colorado Springs. Okay, so you got me beat. It's not snowing here, but it is a chill factor. I mean, if you've got an opening in your jacket, it's going right in your sleeve, and boom, you're feeling it. It's going right chill to the bone. Some more East Coast. We got Guadalajara, Mexico. Hello, welcome. We got San Diego. We got Boston. This is wonderful. Florida. I love it. This is amazing. Well, I'm super excited to have you all in here. And now that you guys threw in those comments into the chat box, it's a great place to actually start leaving your questions for our team that we have here. So we've got some folks on the sidelines that are answering questions kind of as we go. They'll be able to provide information that you need to follow up on any of the stuff that we're talking about today. But also it's a great place to kind of queue up any questions, because we are going to have a Q&A towards the end of our session. And, we'll be able to have you interact with our guests and ask some questions so you can get really minute the information that you're actually looking for. But yeah, it's looking beautiful so far. But I think it's a good time. We're about 4 minutes in. I think it's a good time to get started. But again, throw in those questions. I definitely want to get those answered for you as we go along. And again, any questions that pop in, we're going to queue this up for later. So let's go ahead and let's get started. Let's talk a little bit about content workflow. So creatives face an increasing pressure to deliver content. But as we all know, content is not exactly singular. There are various formats. There's also a slew of channels to distribute them to. And then also you have to develop different variations at scale to create more personalized engagement. And these three dots here, hold on, one more slide back. These three channels here actually showcase a lot of what we have to go through to get content to where it needs to go, and kind of the full circle look at where everything has to kind of go along its journey before its final destination. But we also know that creative chaos can really kill the speed of delivery. And as you can see in this slide, there's a lot going on. And the reality is that regardless of how fast assets are created, The collaboration phase prevents your ability to deliver. So allow me to present a little bit more of a streamlined and simplified solution to this. So when you standardize Adobe's creative platform, i.e. Gen Studio, each piece of content will enjoy a connected, collaborative, and consistent process from creative brief to delivery, allowing you to produce not only the most impactful content, but also unlocking the ability to achieve the scale that is needed to drive business growth. And companies such as VMware by Broadcom have reported up to a 60% time savings when they standardize their creative process using Adobe tools. So for those of you that are not really familiar with Frame.io, I want to give you a little bit of, some points on what exactly Frame.io is. So in essence, Frame.io is going to be your tool to centralize and conquer all of your assets. And with Frame.io, you'll be able to see every conversation, revision, and decision around the media itself for organizational clarity. And basically, it's going to be your collaborative layer for all creative work. Now, the foundation of centralizing around an asset has become really critical with the expansion of creative tool capabilities, and with content demands, creatives need the freedom to find the tool that best fits their needs. But it's not just that. You also have to extend the creative work outside of the traditional asset capture, design, and edit capabilities. And with AI and mass creation software, this has really unlocked the ability to get more out of creators and honestly, get more people to create, which is amazing. But while that accelerates content velocity, it doesn't necessarily equate to productivity, because you need to be able to share, review, and approve assets before they're able to be delivered. But with Frame.io, you can pull in every contributor, every communication, and decision around the content, and it provides everything your team needs all in one place. And you could do this all by using Frame.io's team and organization file management features, high-speed file transfers, creative review and approval tools, and secure storage and sharing options. Now, today, we are so excited to share with you our customer case study that showcases some of the amazing things that VMware by Broadcom has done with the help of Adobe Gen Studio. Now, this video that I'm going to play for you here shortly is going to highlight how they were able to scale the delivery of quality content globally for their annual event, VMware Explore. Now, this is a great example of how you can create mass content with high efficiency and high quality using Workfront, Adobe Creative Tools, and Frame.io. So let's go ahead and take a look at the case study for VMware by Broadcom.
If you're trying to run a global brand and you're trying to do it with a bunch of different tools, you're doing a lot of extra work. We are end-to-end in Adobe House. And with Frame.io, we have a global source for everything. I'm Jeff Tyler. I'm the creative director of the brand experience team at VMware. VMware provides multi-cloud services that empower our customers to adopt a cloud-smart approach. As the brand experience team, we're responsible for all of the branding touchpoints that go out to the public. This is events, creative, video, and strategy. The brand experience team is 92 people. We do consider ourselves an in-house agency. We're managing the brand of a $20 billion company and doing it on a global scale, but we can't manage a global brand alone. Every year, we have our Tier 1 conference that is now in Las Vegas. It's called VMware Explore.
It draws a lot of attention in the industry, and it's something that a lot of the different departments at VMware rely on to drive sales and announce innovations. And for us, it's a huge marketing opportunity, so we really do our best to make it a real experience for everyone who's there.
Just for Las Vegas, we created 970 assets. We had vendors that created hundreds more. That's not even counting the animations and video. Projects start in Workfront. They go through Illustrator, Photoshop. We have our InDesign stuff.
Premiere, After Effects, Audition, Media Encoder, Frame.io.
Our websites are built on AEM. From the start to the end, it gives us everything that we need.
It starts with the client. They submit a request, and Workfront helps with that because we have customized forms for each type of request, and the intake form is like a creative brief.
I do not consider a project to be a project if there's not a ticket. As a creative director, I have visibility to be able to look and say, who are my resources? What is everybody working on? It's a really nicely built single source of truth for any kind of a creative project.
At that point, I will assign it to a team member, and we use all the Adobe tools that are geared for video on a daily basis. Frame.io is where we depend on for the reviews, and the integration within Premiere and After Effects has become just a critical part of our workflow.
The commenters love it, and the editors love it. They just go right into their Premiere timelines. The notes are right there. So we've got a really good two-way communication.
You can actually have a task for reviewing with Frame.io, and a notification goes out through Workfront, and Frame.io can be integrated directly into the tool. And with Frame.io, we see a 20% reduction in revisions.
Once it's an approved piece, we mark that off as complete. And Frame.io is our one-stop shop for videos and photos. Security is a huge part of it, being able to say, here's your link, use this footage, regardless of where they are. And as a creative director, I can go and look throughout the stuff on my team. What are we working on? How are we doing there? What are our vendors doing? Are they aligning to what we want them to do? And I can see our pipeline more clearly. It kind of sells itself. At our events, we'll take a ton of video, we'll take a ton of photography, and camera to cloud at Explore was an absolute game changer.
The ability to have the team shoot in the field and feed files back to the editor in near real time. And then we were able to work on the daily recaps and deliver videos almost a day faster. It's just such an elegant solution.
The savings of not shipping drives, but more importantly, that economy of time, being able to give all of my teams more time to be creative, to do their job. It's that workflow.
It allows everybody to operate in this shared language.
60% of our time has been freed up as a result of using Adobe tools. We're saving hundreds of dollars per person per quarter and tens of thousands of dollars per year.
And I've got one invoice. We're covered for the year. I've got everything that I need. We can't do our jobs without Adobe.
Amazing work from our very own prod squad and brand team here at Frame.io. So I love watching that video. It gives me goosebumps every time I watch it. And to help continue this conversation, we have some guests from VMware by Broadcom that will give us more details about their process. So I want to make sure that we say hello to our guests. Jeff Tyler is the creative director of brand experience. Susan Walther is a senior manager of brand engagement, and Jessica Cameron, who's the brand program and insights manager. Now, this group was largely responsible for the VMware Explore conference just last year. So I want to thank all of our guests for joining us. Now, one thing I do want to point out with these three guests, I wanted to make sure that we include all aspects of creating your content. So I want to include the creative aspect, the producing aspect, and the admin backend aspect to give you kind of a full circle look at their process using Adobe tools and Frame.io. So again, I want to thank all of our guests. And again, throw in those questions. We got folks on the side at the end that will be able to answer questions, but we got Q&A at the end. So let's go ahead and start our discussion. All right, Jeff, hello and welcome. How are you?
Good. Thanks for having me, Sean.
Absolutely. So great to have you here. And yeah, first off, Happy New Year. And I want to start. Well. Thank you. I want to start a little bit about what your role is and your key focus areas are at VMware by Broadcom, just to give a little audience some idea and some context on what you do.
So, creative director of the brand experience team. The brand experience team includes events, advertising, design, brand management, brand strategy, operations. I think that's pretty much it. So it's a big, broad team. My primary purview is to oversee the brand, manage the brand, make sure that everything we're doing, have the macro view of what are we doing strategically, what are we doing to support the company goals, and then make sure that everything is in alignment with that, everything aligns to the company goals, while making sure that we're brand aligned and consistent throughout.
Yeah. So VMware Explorer seems to be kind of the centerpiece of our customer story that we just showed you. Now, can you tell us a little bit more about the event itself, and a little bit maybe on the planning process, who's exactly involved, what kind of assets you're responsible for, et cetera?
So VMware Explorer is our flagship event. We do it annually. It's focused on multi-cloud, and our product offerings and our strategies. The planning is the brand experience team. So there's the events team. Like I mentioned, brand experience is the events team. There's the design team. Planning basically starts, it's a year-long event for planning. So, as soon as we wrapped Explore last year, we started talking about, okay, what are the dates? What are the goals? What are we going to be doing for the next one? And then, in terms of what we're putting together and what we're building out, I mean, it's literally thousands of assets. Everything from the email header that comes on your save the date to every single piece of physical signage that's in the halls when you actually get to the event, and then everything in between from that.
So in the video, the Vegas event was obviously the highlight of it. But, in conversations in the past that we've had, VMware is not just in Vegas. Where else do you kind of hold this conference? And, what kind of challenges does that pose for your creative team?
Yeah, so this year the conference we had it in more locations live than we've done before. So we had it in Las Vegas, Sao Paulo, Brazil, Tokyo, Singapore, and Barcelona. And the challenges that come with that, right, is how do you deliver a consistent brand experience to everybody that's attending? There's also online portions of that are going to be virtual. So how do we ensure a consistent experience for those folks as well? And then making sure that it's everything is aligned brand wise as well. So I mean, again, take that thousands of assets that I was talking about. Mm-hmm. That's thousands of assets per location. So you multiply that out to 5 different locations, right? And what is that going to look like? And so being able to deliver everything, enable our vendors globally to have access to what they need to build that out. It's a huge amount of work and logistics to be able to pull all of that together.
Now, with all these various events that obviously around the world, do you find yourself reusing some of those assets, or do you create net new assets for each conference around the world? Because I'm curious on, your full circle of all of your assets. So if you're making a bunch of stuff for Vegas, do you rechurn some of that for some of those in Singapore or Brazil or any of the other places?
Yeah, so there's definitely some economy of scale at play. It's a little of column A and a little column B. So we'll create the assets. Typically, Las Vegas is the first of the year, right? And so we create a bunch of stuff that goes out for Las Vegas. When we're creating the toolkits, we do have geographic elements that we create in the toolkit. So for the different emails, the save the dates and the reservations and all that, there's some that are global. There's some that are directed to each particular geo. When we rebranded, Explore used to be called VMworld. And then last year, we rebranded it into VMware Explore with the intent of making a single look and feel and a thematic concept for it that's going to be evergreen and going to roll forward. Because typically we used to change it every year. So we can now build upon a brand, right? So we get some economy from that, but we also change locations. So last year, Explore was in San Francisco, or the year before. Then last year it was in Las Vegas, right? And so you've got a whole new set of sizes and needs and signage and things that, okay, we need to build for this. Mm-hmm. And then you take that, and like you said, some of that's adjusted to the other locations. Okay, this is something that, we can scale this to work in the other 4 locations. Let's use that. Some needs to be created new. And then last year we did create an additional set of assets to refresh the look and feel, right? And so there's that landscape animation that we showed an example of a minute ago, where there's the trains and there's other things. Well, we created 5 new landscapes. And then there's all of those animations. And then those animations are built in a way that they're huge and totally off any normal aspect ratio, but we build them that way purposefully so that we can then take our cameras and take those pieces and use chunks of those in any of the installations globally.
Now, so you were saying in the video that Workfront is like, you're basically, the project doesn't exist unless it's in Workfront first. Yeah. And so what it sounds like, you don't really work in Workfront too much on the creative side. So my question is, how does Frame.io connect all of your creative collaborators together? And I guess would be in conjunction with Workfront.
So with Workfront, my whole point about a project doesn't exist if it's not in Workfront is we do everything project focused in Workfront. So all of our communications go on that. We don't communicate by email or Slack or chat. It all goes into Workfront. So we have a single source of truth for all of the communications. Mm-hmm. When we start to break out of that, where Frame.io really comes into play for us is on the back end for my video teams. We keep all of our footage there. We move all of the animations into there. We work with proxies and, streamline the bandwidth that everybody's using because we're a distributed team. And so that makes everything nice and clean there. We have team setups in all of our Premier accounts so that we can, trade stuff back and forth. And then as we're working with any clientele, senior leadership or anything like that, we're in the review and approval tool within Frame. And so that's where we're showing, hey, here's everything, comment it back. The integration there is really key. So if it's a static asset, commenting is great, right? You send it, you get the notes. Hey, that's wonderful. Most proofing or review and approval tools and proofing tools will do that. Where Frame.io really shines, though, is with the video integration, right? Where that's the heavy lift for a lot of our stuff. We'll go and people can go and put notes by frame within the video frame, where it's going to be mark stuff, write it up, put it up. And then when the video team gets those notes back, they're embedded in the Premiere timeline. And so it just removes a huge amount of work from the post-production process, because you don't have to have, here's my list of checkpoints that I'm trying to gather, and then over here's my video screen and I'm jumping back and forth. Or if you've got a whole series of cut downs and, okay, I just took 7 seconds out of this part, now I have to do math to change everything else. It's all right there. And it's a super clean installation. And that's one of the biggest time savings for us. And it also makes sure that nothing gets missed, right? Because all of your notes are there. You can address it as you move through the timeline.
So what particular features on your Frame.io enterprise plan allow you to kind of work across so many different teams at once? It sounds like there's a lot of elements to get all this content going. So, what in Frame kind of helps you be able to kind of separate out, manage people to access certain things and not?
So number one, there's the multi-team issued access, right? So we have numerous teams. It's not just my team that's working within Frame.io. We have numerous teams, and we all have our seat licenses. And then we have, I'm sure that Adobe's got a special phrase for this, but I call it the bucket of soup of storage, right? And it's 2 buckets. We have one bucket that's cold storage, that everything that's archived goes and sits there. And we have a bucket that's hot storage. And then as different divisions within VMware by Broadcom need access and need that storage, it gets allocated as people need it, right? And so it's super flexible from that perspective, enterprise-wide. And then the sharing and the security features are really key for us as well. When we were doing Explore Las Vegas, the event photography crew would go and shoot just a ton of stuff, right? And we wanted to make sure that we had things that were as quickly as possible, enabling our social teams to keep these updates rolling out. Well, we were able to go in, have an entire folder full of thousands of photos, mark out which ones were brand approved, and then set a sharing access to that. And then the social teams could go in and only have access to the brand approved photography. Yeah. And it literally kept us almost real time in terms of the updates that were going out in the social feeds. And so it's a hugely powerful tool. Summarizing, I would say it's the team access. It's the definitely the global access to specific features and specific assets within the tool. And then the security that we have in that is also huge, because not everything that we're showing, we do have some private events that happen at the event that are only for specific audiences. And so being able to still put everything into a VMware folder but make sure only certain people can access or see certain things is huge.
So I saw in the video, and you mentioned as well, you had a photography team, but you were using camera to cloud as well. Can you tell me a little bit more about that process and how your team has, proven that to be valuable for delivering content?
Yeah, I love camera to cloud. With camera to cloud, for folks that aren't familiar with it, basically there's it's native in the Fujifilm X-H2S cameras that we use in the bodies. And as you shoot, almost real time, the footage is showing up in Frame.io. Now, in the past, previous to using camera to cloud, we would shoot on cards. We would go back to the room every hour when the cards were full. We would dump out a whole bunch of cards. I would have an editor sitting in that room who would ingest each of those cards, and you have to ingest independently. So it takes a huge amount of time, and then trying to watch what's going on because we have daily updates. Well, so this time around, Jesse was able to sit in front of his computer and watch the screen as we're shooting and be able to make notes, because he knows what he's going to be putting into the updates, and be able to make notes of what's going. All of those cameras are ingesting at the same time, so we're not running in a linear flow, and everything is immediately available. So in the past, if we have somebody that's remote, right, because we can't send the entire crew to 5 locations globally. That's expensive. Yeah. So you keep an editor local and remote. Well, we would have to wait until something was ingested. Then you have to upload, because you can't, that's not one single step. Well, with camera to cloud, it's an ingest/upload at the same time. And it immediately becomes available to that person. So I did bring a visual aid. In the past,
Let's see.
everybody on the team would bring one of these,
Yep.
right? And you can see, this is, where's my camera at? Come over here, camera.
There
There you
you
go.
go.
This is Explore 2022. This is everything we shot, and everybody would bring one of these. So think about packing to travel internationally, and everybody has to throw one of those into their bag. This takes all of that away, and camera to cloud just removes a ton of steps. And as Jesse said in the video, we could literally deliver our daily updates almost a day early. It's not a full 24 hours of here's time saved, but basically, because it's not, we don't have to wait all of that time to get the footage and then start to build and then go through approvals. We can literally, as it's coming in, Jesse can be watching for what he's going to do. He can tag things, and then the people that are going to be approving the updates, they can actually watch while it's coming in as well. And they can say, yeah, I like that clip. That works. That's going to be good. Yeah. And then they're going to, feed it back. And so by the time that he's starting his build, he knows his clips are already approved.
And so just to let the audience know, so the cameras that Jeff's talking about is the Fujifilm X-H2 and X-H2S cameras. They allow you to send those files, videos and stills. So that's actually leading my next question is, did you use Fujifilm just for video, or did you use it for photos as well?
No, we used it for photos as well. So I the X-H2S is actually my personal camera. And then, which I love it. And then when camera to cloud became native in it, we ordered them for the film crew and rolled everything through. So we did a lot of video capture with that, but I also did a lot of the stills capture throughout all of the shows with my camera, and was dumping that up as we were going along as well. And what's great is the camera to cloud, right? All it says is, hey, anything from this camera is going to go to this spot in the cloud in Frame.io. So I could roll back and forth, super agile, like, oh, I'm running a bunch of stills. Something really cool is happening. Flip to video, capture the video, go back to stills. So yeah, we used it all over the place.
Well, I love that you're able to share so much with us, and I do want to make sure we accommodate some time for other two guests. But please stick around. We're going to have some questions pop in for sure. So I'd love you to stay for Q&A. But I would love to get Susan up here, switch the gears a little bit, and get a little bit on the producing side. Hello, Susan. How are you?
Hello. Thank you for having me, and Happy New Year as well.
Thank you. I'm so glad you're able to join us. But yeah, give me a little bit of your role and how this integrates with Jeff's work on the creative side.
Yeah, sure. So I lead brand engagement, and our primary focus is on the client experience. And that encompasses managing projects, programs, process, trainings, enablement, tools and operations. So we cover, a pretty broad bandwidth of things. And when we're working with Jeff and the brand team, that's more on the project collaboration. So having a tool, you can see where having a tool that's super reliable, because we have so many things that are on our plate, is just like, it's business critical. And so that's where Workfront comes in.
Yeah, so I imagine a lot of your work is involved directly inside of Workfront. So can you talk to us a little bit about all the different requests you get and how they funnel into Workfront? So basically, like, once a request has been submitted, can you just kind of walk us through the workflow all the way to final delivery?
Yeah, because we get everything from larger initiatives, like our flagship event, Explore, and brand strategy, campaigns, video work, but we also, within the tool, manage all of those assets that fall up under these larger things. So we have quick turns, we have like digital assets, social cards, things of that sort, signage, a myriad of marketing materials. So it starts with the request coming in, and we review my team reviews it on the front end, but we also meet with Jeff and team, and we have like weekly meetings. And within that meeting, what's great about Workfront is we have customized it to have reports and bandwidth reports. So when we're going over these things, we can just look at the request live in Workfront, and then click on a button, and we've got the whole team and their availability. It's a super big time saver, and just cuts out all the back and forth of emails and questions. And then from there, I go back, and my team specifically will set up the project. So we have a request queue that's automated that comes in, because we're company wide, so that's a lot of people, and we get it filtered out through Workfront. The requests come in and are routed, custom routed to specific people. And there is probably a choice of like 4 different types of requests, and they each have a custom form, which we have developed, and also a custom template. So once we click these buttons, which used to take a lot of time, we have the entire tasks laid out in a template that we've created for each type. And it just, one task rolls into the other. There's like pre-formatted timeframes, so there's very little adjustment we have to do to the setup. And then my team can, all that small minutia stuff is eliminated, so we can focus on the bigger picture.
Yeah. So with all these requests that kind of come in, and I know this is probably on the creative side, but how do you think Workfront helps you to preserve the story and brand consistency for these assets?
Well, the other thing that we use Workfront for is reporting and analytics. It has that capability, so we can go in and pull custom reports and look at and review and evaluate how our work is performing, right? There's I get requests for custom reports all the time, and that used to take a lot of work to try to track down. Like if you wanted to figure out how many video assets, or specifically talking head video assets did we have at Explore, I could pull a report on that, where before that was nearly impossible. So I think that preserves a lot of the quality of the work. But I think maybe more importantly is just having everything readily available in one space just takes the pressure off. So we can just all focus on quality, instead of the quantity that's just, that we're, would typically be drowning under.
Now, how do you use Workfront and Frame.io as a relationship across your teams, to manage content for these events you put on?
Wait, say that again. I'm sorry.
Oh, how are you using Workfront and Frame.io as a relationship across your teams to manage this content for this event? Do you work in Frame?
Yeah, I don't typically work in Frame.io, but the thing that's great about it is that it's part of the tool. So it's directly integrated into Workfront, and the design team. So when they're working in Workfront, they're also freed up, because these tools, not just Frame.io, but the Creative Suite and other Adobe software, they can access that directly in Workfront. So they can be looking at their tasks, and right next to it, click a button, and then they'll pull up, and vice versa. They'll pull up the Illustrator or whatever they happen to be working in, and they can see both things side by side. So that middle step of going back and forth from platform and to platform, or software to software, is eliminated.
So with your current workflow inside of Workfront, ultimately, what's made your job easier when managing these massive projects, these massive amounts of content?
I think just not having to chase things down. The quality of my job feels better. It feels more meaningful. The brand conversations that I'm having with clients, I'm free to have time to do that, and that's really valuable time to have. So.
Yeah. So, we were just talking the other day, and I was asking you, for someone that's just kind of just getting into Workfront, what are some tips or some things that you would suggest to them before they get started? So maybe some like starter tips.
You know, I would say, do your prep work ahead of time and just ask yourself, what do you need? Because Workfront can customize to like large scale enterprise or even, just a small startup. It's so you need to just ask yourself, do I need reporting? Do I need dashboards, visibility into my team? Do a rough outline, and then the great thing is there's such a great service support. So you just call your Workfront rep, or
Hmm.
you call, get a meeting with a Workfront rep and go over they'll do a demo, and you can then share what you have in advance with them or in that call, and then they'll customize it to what you need. And they also kind of, if you have a budget that you have to stay within, they'll customize it to the budget too. So that's like, a great thing to have.
Of course.
The
Uh,
support, because that this isn't my only role, right? So having, there's a lot of support that's available, and that's key to people that where we don't have a designated system admin that can run this tool on all the time. So
yeah. Well, Susan, I really appreciate you giving us your insight. Again, same as Jeff, I'd love for you to stick around for Q&A because I think our audience is definitely going to want to know about how you process all this content. And there may be some different questions that I have asked. So please stick around. But I do want to bring out Jessica, who makes sure it's like everything on the back end's making this running and moving forward. So Jessica, welcome and Happy New Year.
Hi. Hi. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. Very happy to be here, and Happy New Year too.
Absolutely. Well, again, please share your role and how this kind of correlates with Jeff and Susan's work.
Yeah, of course. So I'm one of the Workfront system admins for VMware by Broadcom, which means that I'm responsible for uh, basically just managing the platform. So optimizing processes and procedures within it. So working on portfolios, programs, reports, dashboards, custom forms, templates, you name it within the platform. There's also daily troubleshooting because there's always like user issues or platform issues, as well as training new users and new team members and new clients who are new to the platform. And the way that I work with Jeff and Susan, so Jeff's creative team and Susan's brand engagement and project manager team, they're all very power users of Workfront. And so I'm always collaborating with them and getting their insight on how they foresee like changes in the platform that they want, like more information from clients or ways to make their team's jobs easier, optimize their processes, make things more efficient. And so they'll come to me with like ideas, like, oh, I would love to see a report that lists X, Y, and Z. And then I go in and I actually build it, or I make it, or I implement whatever it is. And so I'm just always collaborating with them. We always talk about ways to make Workfront more efficient for both the clients and the brand team.
Amazing. So it sounds like, training and getting people onboarded is kind of your forte, but I want to know what the process was for you getting yourself up to speed in Workfront. How did you get started?
Yeah, of course. So my path to being a Workfront system admin was kind of interesting because I wasn't even really a user of the platform. So not only was I trying to learn how to be a system admin, I had to understand what Workfront even was. And so that was an interesting challenge, but I really enjoyed it. So I did a lot of one-on-one training with the previous system admin who was still at the company at the time. So a lot of one-on-one calls, learning our instance, learning how to use the platform, utilized Adobe Experience League's training. So I did a ton of hours working through that. But of course, those trainings are more just hypothetical because they're not going to necessarily talk about your instance. So of course, the best way to train was just tinkering around in the platform.
Yeah.
Workfront has something called Sandbox, which is like the testing environment. So it mimics your actual instance, but where whatever you do doesn't impact actual production. So it was like messing up, making mistakes, not knowing how to do something, figuring it out in there, like building a report that was incorrect, just like learning the all the different quirks of the platform, learning what it provides and learning what breaks things and what doesn't was really the best way to just learn it. And of course, just like talking to other Workfront experts and having them teach me things and impose their wisdom and knowledge on this. That was just the way I kind of came up to speed. And then as a system admin, it's always learning. You're always learning something about the platform. So yeah, no, it was a very interesting ride, and it doesn't end. That's like the best thing about it. So it keeps it fresh.
Yeah. So, I mean, whenever somebody has a new system or they need to start learning new tools, I'm curious to know, was there a lot of convincing on your end to kind of raise adoption with your internal team? Or, do you have any notes on like how you overcame any hurdles with pushback?
Yeah, so when I became a system admin, the instance was pretty mature. So it had started around like 2017. So I wasn't there for like the initial adoption wave to get people on board as a concept. But of course, like when Workfront did its update, where it was like a totally different kind of user like UX, there's always just hesitation just because everyone has just such a busy schedule all the time that learning how to use like an updated version of a platform, no one wants to do that. So
Yep.
totally understand it. So it kind of just makes things a little bit trickier that way. But the best way to do that is just having like office hours to teach people. I wasn't a system admin at the time, but this is the stories that I've heard. Like you just have office hours to help people adjust to the new platform, give them a generous amount of time to come to it on their own, because people aren't going to have the time to just the next day start this new version. So just really allowing them time to adjust and being there to answer questions. In terms of like clients using it, so that was more about like the brand team, like the power users. In terms of the clients, I will say, since I was a client at one point for the brand team before I joined that team, I understand like how difficult it is to open up like and get into a new platform that you don't use in your day-to-day on your team. So a lot of the project managers have to deal with people like sending in emails and Slack notifications instead of using Workfront. And of course, like that's just habitual. So it's just going to happen naturally. And then the project managers just kind of push them like, oh, please put this in Workfront, and just give gentle reminders. But once the clients really understand what the platform provides, they realize that it is the better option. So
Yeah.
I mean, just think about what a nightmare it is to go through like 25 email replies to find like one thing you're looking for, or like, did I say that in a email? Did I say that in Slack? Did I say that in a call? The best thing is just having it in Workfront. You just go in the update section, Control F, and find like exactly what you need, using the task section there and everything. So once people like get in the platform and understand its value to have like the central location, it kind of allows for the adoption of it. But of course, there is some like resistance in the beginning, not necessarily on purpose. It's just hard to like adjust to a new platform.
So I want to jump back into Workfront real quick. How do the reporting and dashboard features improve the workflow overall? And how do you currently divide that up?
Yeah, so the reports and dashboard feature is huge. Almost every like individual Workfront user on the brand team, so people who have their own assignments within projects and requests, as well as leadership, uses some kind of reports and dashboard, whether it's for their entire team or just for them. It's so helpful. So say like a writer who's working on 25 open projects, like off the top of their head, they can't remember, okay, what was due this week versus next week? What was this one that I was working on with this client? But having a report where it just lists out all the projects that they're working on, all their tasks, the date, the description of it, the dependencies, who's waiting on what they're waiting for. It just makes things so much easier so they can see everything like at a glance. For leadership specifically, it's great to see what their team is working on, so they don't need to like have everyone email in on Monday mornings, what are you working on, or something like that. You can just see an entire report of your whole team, everything they're working on, in terms of like number of hours they're working a week, the percent of their time that's utilized on each individual project, what task it is, and they just have that view, that constant visibility, which is really helpful for like resourcing and assigning work or offloading work. And so it really just makes it this open line of communication between the team and their leaders. So it's not like all of a sudden you go up to them and you're like, I'm drowning in work. And they're like, what do you mean? Like everyone just knows already what everyone's bandwidth is. So that's like just such a huge thing. And so there's task reports, bandwidth slash like hours worked reports, project reports, request reports. So we use basically every type of report that there is to share that information with the team and with leadership. That's what I really like. It's not just about leadership. We're not just sending things to the VPs and the directors. We're having everyone see all this information so everyone knows how to collaborate with their team as well.
Amazing. I want to ask this last question. It's similar to Susan's, but it's more tailored to your role itself. But what would you want to share with other admins or other folks in your role at similar sized companies that might just be getting started or looking at a solution like this? And what kind of advice would you have? Anything you would do differently?
Yeah, absolutely. So my biggest thing is try as best you can to have a game plan. So the platform is almost endless in what you can do with it, and most system admins, most instances will not use everything. And so just trying to understand as best you can what the platform provides, what your needs are, and how that can have a relationship to build out a game plan before you go in. Because as someone who works on an instance that's very mature, the longer a team is working on something, the harder it's going to be to change later because they're so used to this routine, they're used to how this works, that there'll be more resistance later. So as best you can, and of course, always optimize later and change things if need be, and you should be, but as best you can, try to understand how you're going to be tackling Workfront, how you're going to be using it, how you're going to build it out in your 1-year plan and your 5-year plan. And then another major thing is always be learning. Never assume you know everything about Workfront unless you've been working on it for like 15, 20 years. But if you're only working on it for a few years or even 5 years, I've talked to people who are like paid Workfront consultants, that is their whole job, and they're like, I am always learning something, whether Adobe just came out with it, like it might just be totally new, or it's existed for 10 years, but people just don't know. So always be available to be like watching those webinars, doing those trainings, just trying to find new ways to help your team increase like efficiency and optimize workflows and everything like that. So definitely try to have a game plan as best you can. Start small, get a small group to adopt, the process that you're doing, and then build from there. And then, of course, always trying to be learning new things in the platform, because you'll be surprised, like what you find out later, like, oh my gosh, I've been doing something this one way and it works, but this way will make things so much faster or so much easier. So just always be available to like discover those new cool things.
Well, I'm hoping that your insight will help some folks watching now implement this in some of their organizations using the process and advice that you gave. So thank you so much for your input, Jessica. Very, very much. Well, since we're getting close to the end here, we did reserve a little time for questions. So I want to open up the floor to the audience and see if we can answer some of those burning questions. So let's go ahead and start the Q&A segment. All right. Well, we got everyone back here. Welcome again, everyone. And yeah, let's jump over and see if we can answer some questions. The chat has been just going off the chain. So there's a lot here, but we got some starred ones for us. Yeah, and the first one is from Trey Johnson. So can you work off the cloud, or do you need to download these files?
You do need to download files. However, Frame is fantastic about creating proxies. And so you do limit your bandwidth that way and lighten up your load. What we'll typically do, everybody works entirely with proxies through the entire process. And then final renders are made from the original source files so that we get the highest quality that we can when we're exporting out.
All right. All right. And then I think this is another one from Trey. Let's hide that one. And then let's go into... Oh, this is a good one. All right, so I'd love to hear from Jeff from VMware's experience with various C2C networking solutions. So they want to know how you're getting those files from the show floor to Frame.io.
Yeah, so you definitely want a good network. One of the nice things when it's Explore, it's our show. And we've rented the halls, we control the networks, and so we can make sure that we're allocating what we need. I think one of the folks also mentioned, if you're running something where you don't control the network, there's other solutions. Teradek has the Prism, which is fantastic for mobile networks. Regardless of what network we're shooting on, we're always also keeping the cards in the cameras. I love camera to cloud. It's a wonderful thing. I don't bet my life on it. I don't bet my life on anything, right? So we're always also just dropping into cards to make sure we've got a backup. But if you can control your network, you're pretty good. Also depending on what you're going to be doing, we tend to shoot in 4K, so we can always drop down. There might be some situations where you only need to shoot in 1080, right? That's going to lower your network needs and as it's going to go.
All right, and then there's another one from Trey. That one went away, but it came back. But so I think he's talking about when you have your camera to cloud files and you're shooting proxies, how is that relinking process?
It's seamless. So because we use the Frame.io panel within Premiere, and so when we're working, we open that panel, we drag that stuff to our projects. It's going to create the link to the proxies that are going to link to the source file. And then, so it's very seamless. And then when we get to the end, and we just choose which file we're going to render from, and then we hit go. So there's actually not a relinking that has to happen. It just works within the application, and you just sort of determine which piece you want to go from. And to also real quick, I want to expand on the panel thing where Susan was talking earlier about designers and the creatives working within Workfront and all of those. There's a Workfront panel that's native to all of the creative applications as well. So my creative team doesn't have to leave Illustrator and Premiere and Photoshop or any of those to put their documents, make their notes, and do all of that stuff. So I know, kind of skidded off, but it does keep everybody in their comfort zone. Okay, back to you, Sean.
No, all good, all good. These are great. So this one's actually going to encompass probably, if not all of you, but how do you connect all the assets with the projects in Workfront? It is my experience that Workfront doesn't handle assets within the project well. What's been your guys' experience?
So we don't keep all of our source files in Workfront. We keep the files that are going for review or so there's a number of ways that we do it, right? So at the beginning of a project, reference files, creative briefs, anything that we need from the client side, they put into the documents tab in Workfront. It's literally drag and drop, and it handles it really well. Source files we don't put in Workfront because we don't want our folks to have access to it. We could put things in there and not give them access, but we also don't want to overload what's going on in Workfront. We kind of keep it clean, so we keep our source files in a separate repository. And then again, it's a drag and drop when we're putting assets in. If it's something that we're keeping in Frame.io, if it's one of our photos, videos, etc., that's in Frame.io, then we'll put the Frame.io link into Workfront instead, and then link back and forth between them that way.
Yeah, and just to add to that, all the historical documents can be housed in the actual project. And what's nice is that each project has all that information and history, and you can just leave it there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and in the archives where we keep all of our source files and everything else, the file structure that we use references the Workfront ticket number. So you can go into Workfront historically and say, okay, well, last year for Explore, I did this. We need that. We need to make an update. You can pull that down, see what it is, but we can also easily then go over to where we keep our archive storage, go by that ticket number, and then grab the source file from that. So we do keep it very organized.
Amazing. Jeff, just real quick, your mic was kind of muffled a little at the end. Do you mind just repeating that last part?
About source files?
Yeah, just that last sentence you said, because it kind of muffled a minute, and I didn't hear. I don't know if the group did either.
Yeah, so I was just saying that while we don't keep the source files within Workfront, the storage application that we do use where we keep those, the folder structure, the naming conventions do utilize the Workfront ticket number. So if we're working on something where, let's say we're pulling from Explore last year, and it's an asset that we need to update for this year, we can pull the ticket, see what the asset is, and then the designer can simply go into our storage system, go by the ticket number, and there's the source file, and pull it out. And then that way we're keeping everything nice and clean, Workfront's nice and trim, and we keep that consistency going.
Amazing. And I'm actually getting some notes here from our backend team, and basically that some features of being able to connect Frame.io and Workfront together are actually coming very soon. It'll be native in the application. So that's something kind of fun to announce that will be on its way. So keep a lookout for that, Cheryl, if you're wanting to connect more of that stuff at a later time. So let me clear that. And there's one other question that came in from an outside source. Let me remove. Stand by. Where is that question? Thank you, Cheryl. I see you said thank you in there. Got it. There we go. Hide. All right. And the other question is, and this is for the group, it's what are some best practices that you could share when implementing some of the change management needed to get your team to adopt these workflows?
Jessica, why don't you start that? Because you kind of mentioned in your thing about
Yeah, sure. Yes, I mean, my biggest recommendation would just be give people time to do that, but have a clear set deadline. So give them plenty of time to adjust to the new workflow or the new process or the new platform, but make a set deadline, because if people don't have a set date, then they'll just kind of push it off and off. But if it's say it's October 1st right now, and you say like by the end of the year, December 31st, this is happening, it allows people to have the agency to like figure out their own time management when they want to learn something or whatever it is, or adopt this new process. But while they kind of have that date in mind, as well as providing a lot of resources for support. So open office hours, a Slack chat that's available, or an email that they can ask where they can request help specifically, or trainings or one-on-one trainings or whatever it is that they need. So just having like resources where they're not in the dark if they have any questions, because if someone's confused about something, there's going to be resistance to use it. So just trying to open up those lines of communication and making sure that they know like the exact expectations, what's going to happen and when.
I would also make sure they understand what is the value to them of doing this, right? Because people are going to be a lot more excited about doing something if they understand, like, look, yeah, it's a change. It's going to take some time to learn this, but it's also going to make 60% of your job go away, and you get to focus on the good stuff, right? And so if you can kind of get that understanding of, here's all the benefits that are going to come from doing this. It will be a little bit painful at first, like every bit of change always is. But once you get it, it's a wonderful place to be.
Yeah, and also, once it is integrated Workfront, there's a lot of things that improve as you have it over the years. And one thing that we did, and it was really helpful, was we had an automated reply that was a survey about, how was your experience, or it was basically your experience with the particular project to the client, and that helps give us information about improvements, and then we can come to the support team in Workfront and see if some of these adjustments can be made. And we do that all the time, from drop downs to choose from, anything we can do to continue to streamline this process to get it off the ground. We keep on top of.
Well, amazing. And unfortunately, we're at the end of our scheduled time, but I do want to take a moment and thank all of you, Jeff, Susan, Jessica. Thank you so much for joining us today and just sharing how you're able to create all this amazing content at scale. Oh, fake question, just kidding. Create all this content at scale using Adobe and Frame.io. Thank you all for joining us so much. But yeah, if you want to learn more about Gen Studio, please make sure to scan that QR code that's going to pop up on the screen here. And yeah, this will give you a little more information about Gen Studio, how you can contact our backend teams to learn more how you can fit this in with your organization. So I'm giving just a few moments for people to pull out their phones and scan that QR code. It'll take you right to the website. But also it'll be in the recording. So if you get that recording link later, you can absolutely check that out. But just giving everyone just a few moments here. And yeah, but if you want to learn more about Frame.io in particular, please check out the Frame.io live page at frame.io/live and sign up for our ongoing sessions. We've got sessions like this. We've got ongoing tutorial sessions. So please check back as often as possible, as we do update our schedule regularly. And always make sure you follow us on Instagram as well. We put updates up there and also have some really fun, cool information to learn more about Frame.io. But ultimately, thank all of you for joining us again from all over the globe, because we got folks everywhere. Again, my name is Sean, and thank you so much for joining Frame.io Live. Have a great day, everyone. We'll see you later.